here's a fun game. Sometimes you hear like people say, if you were stuck on a desert island, that I guess has a VCR and a record
Desert
player.
island without the coronavirus.
Yeah, sure.
But if the
Thank you for
ocean had the
specifying.
virus,
If you were stuck on an island, you could only take one book, one movie, and one album. What would they be?
can I take an iPad as the book? What if there's a
No.
digital book on the iPad?
No, a book. You need to take a book, a paper book.
The book that I cut
She's
open.
going to take
in
Where's Waldo or something.
the book that I cut open in my school hacks video 3 years ago, and I put cereal and food inside.
You would hide food in the book and take that to the deserted island.
Yeah,
Okay.
smart.
I see how
Survival
you're
skills.
We're all playing checkers and you're playing chess,
Yeah,
right?
checkmate, bitch.
All right. And then what what album would
You
you
gonna
take?
stop laughing?
No. What music? If you could only listen to one record. Also, like, I guess you're not really
My
an album
YouTube music subscription.
This is gonna go well. You're not an album person at
I
all,
don't
eh?
listen to music anymore by albums. I used to when I was forced to go to like Sunrise Records and buy albums.
Forced. Who was forcing you to go?
I just mean that was your only option
Oh,
to
I
consume
see.
music, is like you would just have to buy the album.
Before
There's no such
Napster.
thing as getting one song. So now I don't think of it in albums anymore.
That's kind of something we've lost, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people just talk about the new single from Ariana Grande. There isn't that experience
The
of,
new Doja
checking
Cat.
out the new Doja Cat.
I have no idea what album it's on.
You should see it. If it looks good from the front, you should see it from the back. Yeah. But when you used to get an album, I mean, I'm not old enough for this, but like the experience of getting a record too, you'd have like the big
you
album
have records,
artwork.
Ben.
I have a record collection because I think there is a difference in the sound you get from playing a record. There's a warmth to it. It only kind of matters for some
So
music,
what
you know.
album would you bring to the island with
We're
no
not done with your
viruses?
answers yet. So you didn't give us an album. You didn't give us a book. Would you at least give us a movie you would take to this deserted island that has a VCR?
Does my Netflix subscription count?
Okay, we're not getting any real answers.
How about Charms for the Easy Life?
so you could watch yourself?
It's just so bad.
You're
It's so
so
funny.
weird.
It reminds me that things aren't as bad as that movie. Living on the Island isn't so bad because look at that movie.
Wow, this is so weird. You're such an alien.
Are we having fun though?
We're having fun. We're stuck at home.
Okay, because we're gonna do this for the next 2 weeks, Ben. We're just
So
gonna
we're
have
just
a
gonna
podcast
pump out
every day.
podcasts.
Let's film our lives for the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Here, I'll give you my pretentious answers for what.
Can't wait.
Yeah. So I think the strategy here is you want to take works of art that can be interpreted on
As
multiple levels.
Survival skills.
So I'm not
boat.
saying it's my favorite movie, but a movie like Inception by Christopher Nolan that I really enjoy and I really like, that I think you can interpret a few different ways, would have more replay value if I'm stuck on an island until the end of time and can only play one movie over and over again, right? Yeah, like spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it came out like 10 years ago. You shouldn't have to say spoiler alert, right? But the movie really hinges on whether or not you think Cobb, the main character, is awake or in a dream at the end of the movie. But then if you go beyond just that, there's actually a few different paths that can take you to that point, and a few actually different and very emotionally different interpretations of the film when it comes to his wife and whether or not she was right or wrong about his dream state.
So you want to stay mentally stimulated on the island.
I do. That is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Well, you're just going to get bored on the island. I didn't sneak food in my book like
Well,
you.
I'm just
but,
going to try to get off the island.
Okay.
Y'all got a boat?
So that's my movie. My book would be my favorite book anyway, but it kind of works on the same level, is Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov. And it's a book about, it's kind of this, it's meta in a way. Like you read a poem. The book starts with just a long poem. And then in the poem, there are notations and footnotes. So the story is told through the footnotes to this poem. But the footnotes are written by a different author. And I don't want to give it away for anyone, but you come to learn that the author leaving the footnotes is not a reliable source of information. So you have to sort of pick up on the story hidden within the poem and the footnotes. And It's basically a puzzle of a book, but it's so beautifully. He's just such a good writer, Nabokov.
Is that like Mr. Robot? You have an unreliable narrator?
Yeah, actually, that is true of Mr. Robot. Although I feel like they didn't. That is an excellent show, by the way. I would recommend Mr. Robot to anyone. I don't want us to give away the ending, but I feel like the ending has a very interesting twist that they probably didn't do a good enough job of leaving you clues to. It was a bit of a cop-out in a way, I thought.
Well, let's not ruin it for people.
No, watch Mr. Robot. That's a good show. If you're stuck at home, watch Mr. Robot. Watch Breaking Bad and Mr. Robot are the two best TV shows we've watched recently.
Yeah, not The Good Wife.
Well, okay, we're going to talk about The Good Life after I tell you the album I would take, just to tie it all together, would be Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan, released in 1974. Bob Dylan, my favorite musician, mostly because he's a poet.
Or because you think you look like him when he was younger. There's a picture of him that looks like you.
You're talking the very first, Bob Dylan's first album, which was not successful and isn't very good. There's a picture of him that kind of looks like me when I was a little chubbier and a little bit younger. I think. People have told me this anyway. Maybe we'll put it up right here. What do you think? Maybe a little bit. Okay. Anyway, so 1974, he releases Blood on the Tracks. This is right after he's had a not so nice divorce with the wife who he had children with, Sarah. And he has never admitted that it's about his divorce, but there's a famous quote from one of his children saying, like, listening to the album is like listening to his parents fighting. But anyway,
that's awful.
So it is a sad album. So maybe I think I'd be pretty sad on that desert, especially if I'm alone. Usually you're alone in this scenario. I don't have you with me.
Watching movies and reading a book about poems and footnotes.
So I'm listening to Blood on the Tracks, a very sad album, because I miss you so much. And
but I would be there, wouldn't I?
I think usually the scenario is you're stranded alone on the desert island.
Well, I'd have food. You wouldn't.
Anyway, just to complete the thought, the album, I think, similar to why I chose the movie and the book, works on a level where Dylan had just gotten into painting and had a teacher who taught him this technique of painting where you show multiple perspectives at the same time. And when he went into writing Blood on the Tracks, he also applied this to his music. So the first track, for example, Tangled Up in Blue, is a song he once introduced at a live concert, saying this is a song about three people who were in love with each other at the same time. But when he says he and she and early one morning she woke up, he was laying in bed, you never really know exactly who he's referring to out of those three people, let's say. So it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And also it's just an amazing album, probably his best lyrical album from a lyrical standpoint. I think it's his strongest album as well. So there are my sincere answers. Christine, I'm not sneaking Netflix or Cheerios in a textbook.
Sincere. I'm going to outsmart you in your weird, complicated scenarios books.